Our reading today is an excerpt from Peace of God by Howard Thurman. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall guard my heart and thoughts. There is the peace that comes when lowering clouds burst and the whole landscape is drenched in rain, refreshing and cool. There is the peace that comes when hours of sleeplessness are swallowed up in sleep, deeply relaxing and calm. There is a peace that comes when what has lurked so long in the shadow of my mind stands out in the light. I face it, call it by its name, for better or for worse. There is a peace that comes when sorrow is not relieved, when pain is not required, when tragedy remains tragedy, stark and literal, when failure continues through all the days to be failure. Is all this the peace of God? The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall guard my heart and thoughts. Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. These words began our reading from Howard Thurman. And I ended the excerpt with Thurman's question, is all this the peace of God? The peace that comes when lowering clouds burst and the whole landscape is drenched in rain. A peace that comes when what has lurked so long in the shadow of my mind stands out in the light. I face it, call it by its name, for better or for worse. Is all this the peace of God? Then he says, or is it the intimation of the peace of God? Is this the peace of God or just a hint of it? When we turn to the beautiful words of our hymn that we sang earlier, a peace not past our understanding, lyrics written by John Holmes, we actually find a similar answer, though through kind of the opposite framing. The peace not past our understanding falls like light upon the soft white tablecloth at winter supper, warm between four walls, a thing too simple to be tried as truth. That verse ends, but careless noon, the houses lighted late, harvest and holiday, the people's peace. Both John Holmes and Howard Thurman point us to the peace that we can find in this life. Cultivating moments of stillness, both make it clear this is the peace we can understand. The people's peace. In Thurman's words, an intimation of the peace of God. So the question I offer this morning, is the people's peace enough? Is the peace that we can cultivate within ourselves, that inner peace that we hope will shine forth into the world, is it giving us what we need right now? I hope so. I wish it was for me. But I've found it more and more challenging to bridge that inner peace with the world right now. To bridge that inner peace with the violence in the world right now. In the world right outside my front door. Buddhist monk and teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book Being Peace, tells a story about a woman who practices her own inner peace. She practices the invocation of the Buddha Amitabha's name, the Buddha of infinite light or infinite life, a practice that is meant to cultivate compassion among many other qualities. In the story, she's very tough, and she practices the invocation 3 times daily using a wooden drum and a bell, reciting Namo Amitabha Buddha for 1 hour each time. When she arrives at 1,000 times, she invites the bell to sound, and she's been doing this practice every day for 10 years, but he notes, her personality hasn't changed, that she's still quite mean, shouting at people all the time. Thich Nhat Hanh relays that there was a friend who wanted to teach her a lesson. So one afternoon, when she had just lit the incense and invited the bell to sound 3 times and was beginning to recite, he came to her door and said, "Mrs. Wynne, Mrs. Wynne." She found it very annoying because this was her time of practice. But he just stood at the front gate shouting her name. She said to herself, "I have to struggle against my anger, so I will ignore that." And she went on chanting. The gentleman continued to shout her name, and her anger became more and more oppressive. She struggled against it, wondering, should I stop my recitation and go and give him a piece of my mind? But she continued chanting, and she struggled very hard. Fire mounted in her, but she still tried to chant. The gentleman knew it, and he continued to shout. Finally, she couldn't bear it any longer. She threw away the bell and the drum. She slammed the door, went out the gate, and said, "Why? Why do you behave like that? Why do you call my name hundreds of times like that?" The gentleman smiled at her and said, "I just called your name for 10 minutes, and you are so angry. You have been calling the Buddha's name for 10 years. Think how angry he must be." What we do to cultivate our inner peace, our inner spiritual world, is only as good as how we live it in the world. But please don't mistake me. Anything we do in our lives that helps us feel peace within us is valuable, necessary, and beautiful. But if the moment we turn back out to the world, we don't have something to ground that peace, how can we live it out in the world? It saddens me that this feels so true, but now, more than ever, we can be overwhelmed by forces of power that have been built to destabilize communities. I speak from a place of privilege in my whiteness and socioeconomic reality, and recognizing that I speak from that place of privilege, I hope that you can find your own way of connecting when I say that a raid in my neighborhood last month felt utterly destabilizing. Last month, there was an ICE raid at the Alston car wash in which 9 of our neighbors were detained. In the days following the raid, a local student proudly claimed responsibility for it. Whether or not that was true didn't matter. It didn't change anything. But the raid and this student's claim tapped into something that has been over-tapped the last 13 months. A sense of deep sadness and anger, a recognition that the actions of these institutions and individuals are coming from a place I cannot understand. And I don't mean I can't make sense of it. There's so many people wiser than I who explain, and who I listen to explain, how this all came to be, how it came to be both intentionally and unintentionally. No, I don't mean I can't wrap my brain around it. I mean that I can't wrap my heart around it. And whatever inner peace I found seems to falter when faced with this pain of witnessing a violence that I cannot understand. The peace not past my understanding, the peace that I do find within myself, the peace of mindful living, the peace of the clouds and the rain and the trees, this peace not past my understanding does not feel adequate to respond to the cruelty that surpasses my understanding. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard my heart and thoughts. There's a reason Thurman and so many other theologians contemplate the peace of God. There is a need for that peace. In the story of Daniel and the lion's den that Nora shared this morning, when the king saw Daniel sitting peacefully with the lions, he could not believe his eyes. He said, "Now there's a man who has religion." He said to the other men, who also could not believe their eyes, "For religion gives you peace. And right before your eyes, you can see it. The lion and the lamb are lying together, and neither is afraid." Religion gives us peace. How does our religion give us peace? How does our religion give us peace beyond inner peace, beyond practices of contemplation and meaning-making of our lives, beyond the search for truth, beyond mindful living? A mentor of mine, Reverend Sharon Wiley, said on our last Zoom call, quote, "The vision of mindful living, I'm not sure what that looks like when the world is on fire." Where do we find a peace that surpasses our understanding? Right after the ICE raid down the street from me, Lucé's Alston Brighton hub organized a vigil. My friend, who had just become part of the Lucé hub near us, was on his way home from work when he saw a young person in front of him, constantly, in the distance, he sees this, constantly needing to stop and put some large item down and shuffle bags around in their arms and then pick the large item up. And he finally caught up to them at a crosswalk and saw that they were carrying a large pallet of bottles of water and 2 big grocery bags. And he pointed ahead and said, "Are you heading that way? Because I am, and I'd love to help carry something for a bit." And they looked up at him briefly with a friendly shake of the head. No, thank you so much, but I'm okay. I don't have much farther to go." When the crosswalk turned, he asked one more time, "Are you sure? Really, we are walking at least a block together here. My home is right up the block. Can I help with the waters?" They looked down at the pallet of waters they were about to have to pick back up and decided, okay, yes, that would actually be extremely helpful, thank you. As the two walked down the block, he asked where they were headed. And they said that they were going to the vigil, and he responded, "Oh, the Lucé vigil. Yeah, I was gonna head there later. I'm new to the hub." And this new parcel-toting friend stopped for a moment. and took a big breath. They said, "I'm one of the lead organizers of our elusive hub. I can't believe that on the way to this vigil, not only did someone very kind stop to help me, but that someone is also part of the hub. It makes me feel like our community is really doing something here, really coming together for each other." Have you ever had a moment like that? A moment when you just feel held by community or held by the world, by coincidences? Like all of a sudden, you're on your way to an important event, you're juggling all of the things in your hands, and suddenly you're not doing it alone. You're part of something bigger that's beyond what you knew or you could ever know. The peace that surpasses all understanding is the peace that comes when we recognize the beauty in this world that we do not know and cannot know with our mind. When we realize that we do not understand and cannot understand all that life brings. When we recognize the beauty that we only know with our heart. When we look at the sun and the moon and the stars and we remember all that science taught us about these beautiful things in our life, and then we feel all that science cannot answer and cannot teach. When we feel all that cannot be taught. In stillness or in dancing or in singing, in listening to the choir and feeling your heart open, in being in awe of the mysteries of the world. I think we Unitarian Universalists, I think we call this love. The love that holds all our values, the love that holds us. In love, we look at the world, so the world can hold us in love. This is the season for peace, a peace beyond our understanding, a peace that welcomes joy and hope and love. May you relish every moment that makes you realize there's more beauty, more peace, more to this world than we can possibly understand. May we make those moments together. May it be so. Amen.